Welcome back. I'm top music attorney, Miss Crystal, and we took a little bit of a break for the lunch break now that the jury has been out. Now, the court is not back just yet, but I wanted to give us time to all get back together, recap where we currently are. I needed to go and do a little housekeeping. As you guys know, I'm actually a real life entertainment attorney. I run a entertainment law firm. So I needed to check in with staff to make sure everything's going okay. I have not done one of these day of trial live streaming with you guys yet. I've been doing the recaps at the end of the day, but I have been following this trial very closely. So as you guys are here and kind of coming in, welcome, welcome, welcome. Here we go. So as you know, we're very interactive with this live stream. The court has not resumed yet. And so we're going to take a couple minutes just to catch up. How are we doing? How's it going? I'm doing pretty good. I needed to take a quick second to check in with my law firm, with my staff to see how we were all doing. So this morning we heard testimony. And actually last up was from Alejandro, who was the front desk manager for 10 years for the building that Johnny Depp was living in, and that when Amber Heard and Johnny Depp were together. And so there was a lot of questions in regards to what did he see, what did he know, and a lot of what we heard was, or from Alejandro, was I don't know. And in fact, it was a little bit of a bizarre video deposition because there were some things that happened during his deposition, like it looked like smoking a vape pen. At one point, he started driving, which is very unusual when you are being deposed. But luckily, we made it through all of that, and we had some good discussion following his video deposition testimony. Hello, thank you guys for joining. Glad you can be here. Oh, I think we're back. Here we go. Let me remove these overlays for you guys. There we go. Okay. Yeah, we talked about this. We talked about that Johnny was getting a little cheeky and that he was being a little sarcastic in some of his responses, and just we can understand why, but nonetheless, it doesn't play very well when a witness is starting to be sassy or sarcastic. Because, you just don't want to come off like you aren't taking something seriously or that you're being disrespectful, because the purpose of the trial is to bring out the truth, to talk about the facts. And so even though it's very difficult, I am sure, for everyone who is up on that stand, including when you're being cross-examined. When you're being cross-examined, that means the other side is trying to tear your story apart, is trying to show that you're biased and that you are not a credible witness. So while you're doing all of that, you have to try to keep your emotions under control, try to be just factual. And there were a couple of moments here and there that Johnny seemed to express his frustration or express his annoyance with Amber Heard's attorneys. But overall, I think that he did a pretty good job with his testimony. No marriage today, but I appreciate you being here. This case is definitely interesting. Yes, and that's why, because I've been watching this in real time, I'm kind of like in between client calls and things like that. So I'm trying my best to keep up on it. But today I decided, you know what? We're just going to watch it together. And we're going to give some real-time legal commentary. Thank you for being here. I pray God gives a new, beautiful, humble wife to Johnny. I don't know how Johnny or Amber are going to fare in their relationships after this, but I think Amber's already in a relationship and her girlfriend ended up getting kicked out of court. We discussed this already. More publicity than the OJ trial because of the internet. It's crazy. I mean, look, it's crazy that we can all watch this in real time and we have cameras in the courtroom and there's so much access and there's a lot of interest. Right? So OJ, obviously, that was highly publicized, but I think there's a different caliber of interest because it's Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. You may be a fan of hers. It has been very interesting indeed, and now they're dealing with some sidebar issues. This is what happened. So, I think court TV is controlling the audio in the courtroom. So there are multiple times that it's being muted. We can't hear what they're talking about, which I don't like, but it is what it is. OJ case is the only one that you have followed that closely. Yeah, I mean, look, there are cases continuously being broadcast live on court TV, but this is the one that we're all tuning into. Now, I am not watching this through court TV. I know there was someone else who was watching through court TV totally fine, but for me, I ended up getting kind of annoyed with all of the breaks and all of the commercials. And so, because there are other outlets that you can watch this without interruptions, that's what I'm opting to go to. I've only been in court once, and lawyers can be savage, but it proves they're trying to fight. Look, if you are on either side of this case, you want your attorney to be savage. You absolutely want to make sure that your attorney is advocating for you as strongly as humanly possible. And I think that's only fair. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome back. Yeah, I think a lot of people are just going to go on movie binge watching. Again, if you're a fan of Amber Heard's or if you are a fan of Johnny Depp's, that, they're just kind of front and center in our minds right now. So we're going to go and watch a bunch of their movies, which I think is perfectly reasonable. All right, let's go ahead and just shut this one down. Perfect. All right, let's close this down. Sorry, guys. There we go. All right, perfect. Hey, Lindsay. Thanks for checking in. All right, we still don't have audio from the court. They are still discussing whatever they're discussing, likely exhibits. They're dealing with some issues. Been seeing a lot of the stuff that is hearsay. Can you explain what that entails? So when someone is asking a question and they go, did you hear this third party? What did this third party say, or what did they think? What was their impression? And so when it's something that you cannot directly attest to, it wasn't your words, it wasn't something that you have direct knowledge over, that's where the hearsay objections come in, because you can't talk about other people's opinions and what other people were saying. Unless, of course, you lay some foundation. So, of course, there are exceptions to that. The entire world is tuning in. I think so. I think on some of these legal channels where they're streaming, at the end of the day, it will be like 10 million views on one video. It's insane. Derek, legal transcriber here. Wish I had this case. Yeah, you know what? I've been noting the court reporter, and she's just quietly there doing her thing every single day. I think everyone is kind of, probably has a certain take on this, including the judge. I wonder how the judge feels that obviously her face is front and center on everyone's TVs and devices and will be for up to 7 weeks. And quite frankly, I'm sure the answer is just this is their job, and it just so happens it's being televised, kind of so what? It's what they do every single day. But I also think about it for the attorneys themselves, right? How often do these particular attorneys litigate cases? Right. So that was one of my questions. I think that there have been really strong points for the attorneys, some weaker points for the attorneys, but sometimes, you are representing these big celebrities and these cases end up coming up and you have to handle them in court. And maybe, you aren't a full-time litigator. So you're having to kind of get this experience and do it all on the fly, which I'm sure is a little nerve-wracking. You're watching from Facebook and YouTube. Thank you very much. Yes, we are broadcasting on Facebook as well as YouTube, waiting for that court audio to come back. What is going on? Let us hear. Yes, I think this elicited some laughter in the courtroom where Amber's attorney was objecting to, unfortunately, a question that attorney had asked. And so the witness does get to answer. Typically, you do not object to your own questions. Uh-oh, yep, this is what I'm talking about. I'm not really the biggest Amber Heard fan, but where do you stand on the defamation portion of the claim? Well, we have two cases here. We have two claims of defamation. Now, it's interesting. Amber Heard's claims for defamation arise from the UK case and statements that Johnny Depp's attorneys made, right? So they weren't even Johnny Depp's direct words, but in a way, it kind of plays in the same way that Johnny Depp is saying, your op-ed defamed me, even though it didn't specifically name me. And now it's the words that your attorneys used defamed me, Amber. And, it's because you authorized their use. They were made on your behalf, which is all really interesting. And actually, guys, just as a kind of pro tip on this, when it comes to statements that are made in court, there is immunity, right? So, just because the other side's attorney is going to be saying some difficult, challenging things or embarrassing things about you, that attorney has immunity because they have to do the case. They have to be, vicious, right? They have to be aggressive. They have to advocate for their client. So within the scope of being in the courtroom, you have immunity for the things that are said. However, the statements that are in question and that Amber is seeking damages for her defamation claim were statements that the attorney made outside the court. So the attorney was addressing the press, made some statements about her, and that is where we are right now. Yes, be sure to hit the like button. It helps to just get the word out on YouTube and helps YouTube to push. If you leave a comment, if you like the video, all of that helps on YouTube, but it's every single platform. On LinkedIn, on Facebook, wherever you are watching. You think Amber's legal team dismantled the expert witness? Yeah, I think the expert witness did a really good job as far as just kind of, handling her own. But that's the point. When you go in and there's that cross-examination, it's to, again, show a bias. It's to show that they are not credible as an expert witness. And so the jury should disregard what they have to say. Also been part of a jury for a civil trial, lasted for a month. That's a long time. It makes me wonder how more productive court cases would be if court hearings were to happen a lot sooner than later months. Tons of I don't remember lines, sadly. We have heard that in a lot of the video deposition testimony. We have heard a lot of I don't recall, I don't remember. Even Johnny has had quite a difficult time recalling certain dates when he was asked things like films that he has participated in, shoot dates. If you, a lawyer representing this trial, whose side would you be on? I'd be on the side of who hired me. Now, I think that, at the end of the day, everyone is entitled to defend themselves and to seek legal counsel. I think it helps when your attorney believes you and wants to advocate for you. So I was kind of talking about this yesterday. I'm like, you want to make sure that if you are representing Amber Heard, you believe her and you think Johnny Depp is a monster and you think that he's an abuser, and you will give her the best representation. And then conversely, if you're representing Johnny, that you believe Johnny, that he is this innocent bystander, that Amber is the aggressor. And, and I think that in the same, you really shouldn't have an opinion. Either way, you need to represent your client as best you can. It helps when you genuinely are on your client's side. I hate when personal stuff gets this much attention. I mean, here we all are. I hear ya, but here we all are. Both sides and all in the courtroom have so much on their plates. The judicial system takes so much more than people think. Yeah, and it's a very slow process, right? They've been dealing with this case. I think they divorced in 2016. So they have been dealing with claims and this case that was in the UK and now the one here in the United States. And it's all an extremely slow process. The fact that we are now at trial, there's been several years of litigation leading up to this. And then even with the trial, like we were talking about, it's going to be 7 weeks, right? So it's a very long process. Litigation is very slow moving, and there's a reason for that. Clients get frustrated and they say, why is this taking so long? It's months and months and years. But it's because you have to file things and there's timing. You file a motion and then the other side has 30 days or 45 days to respond. And then you get to reply and then the judge has time to rule on it. And so just for one motion, it might be several months before you have a determination. So it's a very slow process, but in one way, it's a good thing because it gives adequate amount of time for there to be research done, for the attorney to, properly advocate for their client. But it's definitely a source of frustration for a lot of clients because the judicial system is very slow moving. Being a lawyer just seems like a stressful job. It is indeed. It can be a very stressful job. I think it goes to your personality type and how you handle stress. But, attorneys are some of the highest alcohol users and drug abusers. And, I think attorneys have a very difficult time coping with the high amount of pressure and stress. So that is true. But I think with any job, you need to, be able to find coping mechanisms. And some people are just better suited, I think, for certain types of jobs. And, if it's not for you, that's totally okay. Let someone else get stressed out. Lawyers get paid the big money if they win. Well, look, going back to the point about being stressed out, right? So you want to have someone else deal with your problems, to be stressed out at all hours, to be doing the research. I mean, there's a reason why attorneys are paid really well. It's not only because they have the law degree, they went through the schooling, right? They now have like hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loan debt in order to get that degree, but they're the ones that are qualified to be able to handle cases. I mean, guys, I'm an entertainment attorney. A lot of my clients, we do so much contract work. So we're not so much in court. We're not, strongly civil litigation oriented, but we do a lot of negotiations and contracts and trademarks and copyrights. And, that takes a lot of skill set and know-how, especially when you run into problems. So for sure. So we're waiting on the ruling to be finalized. No, Jonathan, we are far away from any kind of final ruling. We are many, many weeks away from a final ruling. We are only in the middle of week 3 now. Who in the courtroom will write a book about this trial? Yeah, I think most celebrities at some point they end up putting out some kind of book. Do we, can we expect that from Johnny? I don't think so. Johnny made a point to say, I've never wanted to basically like be in the limelight as a sex symbol, as, this kind of teen bopper idol. Obviously, he is a huge movie star, but he has actively tried to control his image and he doesn't want to kind of go a certain route. And, so I'd be surprised if, for example, if Johnny Depp put out some kind of book. I don't know about Amber, but, when you are telling your story, you have the right to do so. But because now we are going through a very intense defamation trial, that's the risk. When my clients come and talk about, I want to release this book talking about this thing that this person did to me, our conversation usually revolves around, is it truthful? Right? So truth or something being truthful is the ultimate defense to defamation, but it doesn't mean that you just automatically win. If someone wants to bring a defamation claim because you talked about them in your book, then you still have to go through a court process. Watching from a music studio. Love that, David. Hard to hear, but enjoy it. Sorry for any audio, especially with the court. The court volume is a little bit low. So we have been trying our best to kind of adjust that. But hopefully they will make an adjustment. Now we are on the second half of the day and heading into the afternoon. What time is Amber Heard going to testify? Want her side of the case. Yeah, so we are still in the case in chief for Johnny Depp. Remember, Johnny Depp is suing Amber Heard for defamation for $50 million. He gets to put on his case first because he is the plaintiff. Okay, so that's why we have heard testimony from Johnny, and all of the witnesses thus far have been for Johnny's case. When Johnny's case kind of concludes, we will move into Amber's case. Now, she is technically the plaintiff in her counterclaim, but for purposes of the initial claim filed, she's the defendant. But the point just being, the initial plaintiff files and goes first, then the defendant goes next. So Amber will be next. She will have her day in court. She gets to present all of her witnesses and evidence, and that will be coming up next. 7 weeks is indeed a lot of time, but where do you stand if you have in this case? I'm not sure what you mean there, but it is a lot of time though, for sure. And I think right now, obviously, Johnny's team is doing a pretty good job of painting these consistent pictures of Johnny, his demeanor, the fact that a lot of the key people who are and have been involved or were involved with their relationship that they didn't see, any injuries. Being in the public eye, you got to walk on eggshells. You have to be careful. I say this to my clients, especially if they are in the entertainment field. Don't think that any text message, any audio recording, any video clip that you ever send is going to be kept private. I don't care if you're sending it to your mother, your best friend, anyone. Because even if you delete digital files, we can usually go and retrieve them if we have subpoenas and we're in a court case, so you have to be very careful, no matter who you are, but especially if you do happen to be in the entertainment field. And we've had cases and issues that come up, for example, of, people who are talking to who is later discovered to be minors, and they had no idea because, of course, they're not checking IDs. They're just in DMs. A lot of crazy stuff happens. I think it's fair to not expect people to remember things that have happened years ago. I can't even remember what I had for dinner 2 days ago. It's not. It's better to not misremember, I see what you're saying, and give false testimony. Absolutely. And the word to all witnesses is just be truthful. If you don't know, you don't know. And that's okay. But you do want to try to prepare a little bit beforehand to get kind of familiar with your dates, because obviously if you just get up there and say, I don't know, for 15 minutes straight, that's not terribly helpful. So if you are trying to be a helpful witness, to review your notes and that kind of thing ahead of time. And in fact, our last witness that we heard from, Alejandro, he had said that the attorneys had sent him a bunch of paperwork to review beforehand, and I guess he didn't, which I thought was very funny. He's like, I'm just so tired of hearing about this case. So no, I didn't review anything, and I don't remember. All reduces to opinion and image. Truth doesn't matter on TV. Well, look, guys, I mean, I don't know about you in the comments, but as far as who's kind of the winner right now, I'm feeling like Johnny Depp is kind of favored amongst the general public. In the court of public opinion, most people seem to be on Johnny's side. I have seen a few people here and there in favor of Amber Heard. And look, maybe once we get more into her case and we hear her testimony, maybe the public opinion will start to sway. I wouldn't want to deal with this for 7 weeks. Yeah, I mean, can you just imagine, like, those chairs in the court are not comfortable. They are not comfortable whatsoever. And so, being for these, 8-hour days, and then it's more time than that, right? Because you have the breaks and you have lunch. I mean, this is their entire lives. And then afterwards, you're talking to the attorneys. Afterwards, you are thinking about the following day and what you have to do and how you need to prepare. So this really is a full-time job. It's very exhausting, physically and mentally, for everyone involved, but especially the attorneys, because the attorneys have another 4 hours to go after the entire court session has concluded. They now need to debrief from the day. They need to add the relevant notes into their outlines, as they are now building what's going to be their closing statements. And so they have to recall everything that the witnesses were saying and to do that kind of debrief at the end of the day. Now we see Amber Heard's attorney laughing. So at least they're having some kind of pleasant exchange. The judge is laughing a little. Hopefully we're about to get started. Here we go.
Are you ready for the jury?
Okay. Good to have you here, Carlos.
Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, guys, I adjusted the volume again, so hopefully we're a little more balanced. Let me know once you are hearing the court audio and if everything sounds okay. So the jury is filing into the courtroom now. Johnny would be in custody. You mean he would have been arrested? Yeah, I mean, we've heard some, physicality from Amber to Johnny, and they're doing their best to try to bring out that Johnny actually hit her. But we haven't heard anything really solid to that effect just yet.
Thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. All right, your next witness.
Plaintiff calls Christian Carino, Your Honor.
Christian Carino.
And
Christian
as with a number of the other depositions,
Carino.
this one start with questioning by Ms. Heard's counsel, and at some point switch over to questioning by counsel for Mr. Depp.
All right, and how do you spell the last name just for me, just in case?
C-A-R.
Yeah, you're right, Marlene. We've only heard one side of the story so far.
Thank you.
Jerry Springer.
An address for the record. Use your business address if you feel more comfortable.
Christian Carino, and the work address is 2000 Avenue of the Stars in Century City.
Let me see what I can do. I think we're peaked out over here, but it's coming through very quiet.
Current occupation?
I'm a talent agent.
And could you give me just a very brief description?
He's a talent agent.
Your back experience?
Sure. I have a BA from the University of Massachusetts, and my work background is I've been at CAA for approximately 16 years, and before that, I had a 12-year run with 2 different advertising agencies in New York.
And who were those advertising agents?
He's very casual.
Ian Mather
So
and
leaning on
Brian
his
Erickson.
fist.
Right. Now, you indicated that you were a talent agent. Can you please describe what that means?
I represent multiple clients and brands.
I know, guys. Sorry, that's how it's coming through.
transactions in the entertainment space.
And when you say in the entertainment space, what are you including?
Just the different genres.
I just
of
turned my volume
entertainment,
down a
everything
little,
from,
so hopefully that balances it.
motion picture to television to books to licensing to modeling, all the different areas that the agency operates in.
As a talent agent representing multiple clients, what types of services do you perform for them, and what is the objective?
Okay. Yep. I conduct business transactions on behalf of clients and brands in the entertainment space.
We will see.
And what does that mean?
It means I organize, pitch,
This so happens when you have someone who's like not in the entertainment industry,
contractual agreements between talent,
meaning the attorney.
and studios, talent and brands, entertainment platforms and individuals, brands and individuals.
Do you represent any actors?
I do work with every different group of talent within the agency, and for each person, it's different, the business that I personally oversee for them. So in some cases, I am negotiating contractual agreements for a music artist to go to Las Vegas. In some cases, I'm transacting an agreement for an artist to have a relationship with a brand. In some cases, it's an artist with a platform like Netflix. It spans the general platform capabilities that the agency has overall.
Is one of the objectives of your representation to build the careers of the individuals you represent?
Yes.
Yeah, to assist as an agent,
Did you have
get opportunities.
any conversations with Mr. Waldman in which you expressed any thoughts or opinions on how you believed any litigation was having an effect on Mr. Depp's reputation or career?
Yes.
How many times?
One that I can recall.
And when was that?
I have no idea. Years ago.
If you expressed to Mr. Waldman that the sooner the litigation was over, the better for Mr. Depp, what were you thinking when you said that? Why did you think that?
I think anytime somebody is in litigation publicly, it is at a minimum a distraction to that person's career, and
I don't know what that is that we're hearing in the background.
It negatively impacts that person because there's attention drawn to them that it is outside of what people want to know about that person.
Litigation is a distraction. And David, yes,
And
agents and managers
what do you
can
mean
be
by it distracts from the career?
really shady.
I mean that with somebody who is well known,
Yeah, that's
people
correct.
don't want to hear they're in a lawsuit with anybody about anything.
Why not?
Because that's just not what they want to know or hear news about people.
And why do you believe that?
Based on my experience in this world for the past 16 years.
And when you say it negatively impacts, what do you mean by that?
People don't want to hear that the people that they look up to are in litigation.
Do you also believe that that impacts career decisions by producers, directors, companies with brands, things of that nature?
Yes.
And in what way?
Because the general public doesn't want to hear that people that they look up to are in litigation. And when the more oxygen it takes up in the overall news or coverage of an individual, and the less focused it is on that person's career, the less interested studios, brands, the general public becomes in that person.
And therefore less opportunities?
Yes.
Well, especially when we're dealing with claims
When
like
you express
domestic violence.
to Adam Waldman that your opinion that the sooner the litigation is over for Mr. Depp, the better, what did Mr. Waldman say?
To be honest, I don't recall exactly what he said, but something like, we're gonna get this over with as fast as we can.
Mr. Carino, I'm going to ask you to take a look at what has been marked as Carino exhibit number, we'll keep it labeled 4.
I feel like
Do
Mr.
you
Carino's
believe
hat's very
that
artist
the Mandel
manager
lawsuit
reminiscent.
posed a distraction to Mr. Depp's career?
I don't know.
I'm going to show you what was
Another jump cut,
as
so something was taken out.
Carino Deposition exhibit number 5. And as you can see here, it's an article June 21st, 2017.
after
the
they
Hollywood
split.
gossip. Do you recall that coming up during that time frame, that issue?
No.
Have you read or heard of the Rolling Stones?
Yes.
Have you read or heard of GQ?
Yes.
Mr. Carino, I'm going to ask you to take a look at what has been marked as Carino Deposition Exhibit Number 2, and it's Rolling Stone publication on June 21, 2018. Do you see that?
Yes.
Did you ever read this article?
Parts of it.
Are you aware of whether
Agreed.
this article in the Rolling Stone, June 2018, that's
Thanks for
reflected
checking in.
Carino Exhibit Number 2.
Yeah, sorry guys, the feed from the
way
court is
Mr.
very
Depp's
quiet for some
reputation
reason.
or career?
Elena, I don't think it's possible to ask anybody that question without having done research among the people who read a specific article. If you're asking my opinion about whether an article like this or this particular article, in my opinion, would have a positive or negative effect on somebody's, career, I could potentially answer that. But as to definitively whether an article has or has not had an impact on somebody's career, nobody can answer that question without research. Specifically.
Yeah, it would just be
Well, I
speculation.
think we were
Just
going
because
to
there's a
start
bad
looking
article
at
written,
the Carino Exhibit Number
it doesn't mean it's
3.
going to
This
long-term
is an
impact the
article
career of
that
someone.
was published in November of 2018. Do you recall reading this at some point?
What publication is that?
This is GQ.
I probably read part of it, but I don't remember.
Have you had any direct contact with Ed White or his company?
Guys, I just tried turning it up on a different
Yes.
end. Let me know if that helps at
And
all.
what is the nature of your contact with Ed White and his company?
Payment on deals where Johnny was owed money. Bill collecting.
When you say bill collecting, was it collecting on your behalf, or was it trying to collect from studios or companies?
The latter.
And so what would your involvement be in those circumstances?
Ed, on occasion, reached out to me to ask about the timing of a payment that was owed to Johnny.
All right. And were you able to answer those questions?
I think in all cases, I just referred him to somebody who worked for me to find out what the payment schedule was.
Other than these occasions where Ed White would reach out to you to ask when timing of payment, did you have any other connection or communication with Ed White or his company in connection with Johnny Depp?
No.
I wonder where she's
Were
going
you
with this line of
familiar with
questioning.
Jake Bloom?
Yes.
Do you know whether Mr. Bloom ever represented Mr. Depp?
Yes.
And what was your understanding of the nature of that representation?
He was his lawyer.
Mr.
Did you
Bloom,
ever talk to Jake Bloom?
Johnny's
Yes.
attorney.
On how many occasions did you speak with Jake Bloom relating to Mr. Depp?
I have no idea.
Was it pretty frequently?
What does that mean?
Well, was it more than 10?
Are you asking me if I had approximately 10 conversations with Jake over the duration of our relationship?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
so.
I actually asked if you had more than 10. I wasn't asking you if it was
The
exactly
pacing
10.
of this line of questioning is very slow.
I mean, I'm guessing that it was probably less than 10 in total.
Was Mr. Bloom still representing?
you wouldn't have
Mr.
an
Depp
agent
when you
talking to
started
the
representing
attorney.
Mr. Depp?
That often.
I believe so, but I'm not sure.
And when did you start representing Mr. Depp?
I believe it was in late 2016.
Awesome.
Mr. Carino, are you looking at something to be able to refresh your recollection?
I am.
They're building the
do you have in
basis
front
right
of you?
now
A note
of how involved he was, I think. And he was talking to the attorney and other
that I made to
agents.
myself of the date of when Johnny was a client, and I think I wrote down October 2016.
And just that he represented Johnny Depp.
Do you have a recollection of the context of your discussions with Mr. Bloom?
Christian Carino, an agent for Johnny Depp, an
Yes.
entertainment agent.
My recollection of the conversations I had with Jake were in regard to getting
Talking about conversations
Johnny
with
and-
Johnny's attorney.
Jake to meet and work out whatever the issues were around their disagreement.
What disagreement? Elaborate.
So you were trying to broker, if you will, a discussion between them to try to resolve their issues?
Correct.
Were you successful in that?
I don't remember whether they ever got together and met about it, to be honest.
Now I'm going to show you what has been marked as deposition, Carino deposition exhibit.
All right, maybe
number
we're getting to
7.
something now. What's this exhibit?
And this is a lawsuit that was filed on October 17, 2017. Were you aware of this litigation being filed by Mr. Depp on his behalf against Bloom, Hergott, Demeanor, etc.?
Yes.
And were you involved in any way in this litigation?
No.
Do you know one way or the other whether the filing of and the ongoing litigation associated with this lawsuit had any negative impact on Mr. Depp's reputation and career?
I said no, Elaine.
Do you recall whether there was...
He's using
any
her name.
publicity
I said no, Elaine.
surrounding this litigation that's reflected in the complaint that's Carino number 7?
Are you asking me if I'm aware if the Jake Bloom litigation was made public?
Yes.
Yes.
And in addition to being made public, do you recall whether there was publicity surrounding the Jake Bloom litigation?
Yes.
And do you recall whether there was publicity surrounding the Mandel litigation?
Yes.
Mr. Carino, I'm going to ask you what has been marked as deposition exhibit number 10. And
I'm waiting for
this
them to pull
particular
together.
one
What's the
has
relevancy of this
this
line of
is the-
questioning?
article that was written in the Sun Times that was the beginning, if you will, of the UK lawsuit. Do you have a recollection of seeing that?
So this is
No.
the publication that called Johnny
Did you
Depp
ever
a
read
wife
it?
beater.
I don't know. I'd have to. I don't know. I'm sure I read at least part of it. If it's the original document that caused the Sun legal issues.
Now, the date on this one is April 27, 2018. Do you see that on there?
Yep.
Mr. Carino, I'm going to ask you what has been marked as deposition, Carino deposition exhibit number 11. And it's dated June 13, 2018. It's hard to see that little stamp there at that, but it was filed on June 13, 2018. And it's Mr. Depp filing the news group, Newspapers Limited, who owns The Sun, and then Dan Wooten. Were you aware that Mr. Depp brought this lawsuit in the UK against The Sun and Mr. Wooten?
Yeah.
Mr. Carino, I'm going to ask you to take a look at what has been marked now as Carino exhibit number 12. This is published in the Washington Post
So we're establishing he
on December 18,
may or may not have known about some of
18.
these articles, may or may not have known about the lawsuit
Were you
against Jake
aware
Bloom, the
of
attorney.
This article,
Yes.
op-ed.
Yes.
Is he referring to Amber's
Carino,
article?
when I asked you whether you were aware one way or the other, whether this lawsuit that's reflected in exhibit number 11 had a negative impact on Mr. Depp's reputation and career, you answered no. What did you mean by that?
I meant that there isn't a way for any individual to know whether the filing of a document had an impact on somebody's career, positive or negative, without specific research conducted in exactly that case.
Does anyone know what's written on his arm? I can't quite
The
tell.
same as in
Love
the
yourself?
facts that you, because you haven't researched,
Just?
you don't know whether it impacted Mr. Depp's reputation or career, correct?
I believe I stated that unless someone had done research specifically about the filing
I
of
think
this
you're right,
document
Cody.
and its impact one way or the other, it's impossible to answer the question.
I'm going to show you what has been marked.
I mean, I think what they're
as
trying to get to is that
number
he's the
14.
agent. Didn't Johnny's work slow down after these articles?
This is the lawsuit
Because
that
of
Mr.
Amber's
Depp
statements,
filed
because of the
against
lawsuit? I think that's what they're trying to get to.
Ms. Heard, do you believe that the filing of this lawsuit reflected in Carino deposition
funny.
exhibit number 14 and the attendant publicity has had a negative impact on the reputation and career of Mr. Depp?
No.
And why not?
Because I've stated previously, it's not about the filing of a lawsuit. It's about the coverage.
Okay, I think that's fair.
You're asking me what my opinion is of what Johnny's reputation is today. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, Susan, I think he just says,
My opinion
I
of
can't
what
draw a
Johnny's
conclusion.
reputation today
I don't know.
is one of the finest actors of his generation.
Has, in your opinion, has Mr. Depp's reputation changed at any point from October 2016?
I think that's
to
why
the
Depp's
present?
team is using this
If you're asking
video.
me if what I
helps their
defined
case.
as his reputation has changed in terms of his being viewed as one of the best actors of his generation, I would say no.
So just so I'm clear that I understand your answer, in your opinion, Mr. Depp's reputation is that he is one of the finest actors of his generation, and that has been his reputation since you started representing him in October 2016. It still is today, and it hasn't changed during that time frame. Is that correct?
The view on his acting ability has not changed.
Well, I'm taking your definition of reputation. You said what they are known for. So I'm taking that specific definition, and I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean,
is
he's
there
an agent.
anything
All he can
other
talk about
than
is
that
my
Mr.
experience.
Depp is one of the
Did the
finest
jobs
actors
slow
of his
down?
generation that he is known for, that has changed between October 2016 and the present?
The only way I can answer that is as it relates to his professional capabilities. That has not changed.
Is there something that
It's a
has
creative
changed
way
that
of
doesn't
answering that.
relate to his professional capabilities?
I don't know how to answer that, Elaine.
Using your definition of
I love that he keeps
reputation,
using her first name.
which is what a person is known for, is there any aspect of what Mr. Depp is known for that has changed between October 2016 and the present?
Both sides have agreed to
It's-
what we're watching. So it's the only reason we're
I've
watching it right now.
Stated what I think his reputation is, and I've stated that, in my opinion, his professional reputation as it relates to the quality of his acting abilities has remained unchanged.
We're seeing that from some of the witnesses for sure.
Do you make any distinction between personal
That's
and
correct.
professional reputation?
They just want to know what you know and what you can testify to, not what your opinions or speculations are.
Yes.
And what is that distinction?
So this is not live. This was when his video deposition was done, which was
The
January
difference
of 2021.
What somebody does on screen and off screen.
What is your opinion of what Mr. Depp was known for off screen when you started representing him in October 2016?
I think what he was known for off screen was a shroud of mystery of who he was, because he was not visible to the public.
True. And so that's something Johnny wanted, who wanted to remain private. Not
And that
anymore,
was
though.
back in October 2016.
Or that's not the case anymore.
I don't have a specific date for that.
Yeah, this is being
But
broadcast
when you
live. We're
started
seeing Johnny
representing
live.
him,
We're
that
seeing
was
the
your
court.
stance?
But the video
Yes.
itself is being
Okay.
played in court, is
Did
pre-recorded.
that change over time?
Yes.
And in what way did it change?
Exactly.
It changed with the exposure of that came with the lawsuits.
Fiji Water's getting an accidental national free ad campaign right
And
now.
the lawsuits that we're talking about are the ones that we've already taken a look at. Exhibit 4, 7, 8, 9, 11, and 15. No, I mean 14.
I mean, I'm not talking about any one or two specifically, in general.
Do you believe that Mr. Depp is still a shroud of mystery, not visible to the public?
No,
And when did that
No,
change?
indeed.
I don't know exactly when.
Would you say it was cumulative over the period of time as a result of all of the litigation and the publicity ensuing?
Probably. Agree with that?
Is there any one specific litigation that you believe most significantly impacted on Mr. Depp's personal reputation no longer being a shroud of mystery and not visible to the public?
My opinion is that Amber's accusations would have had the most dramatic impact on his off-screen reputation.
Important testimony.
I'm not talking about any one specific accusation.
It's not that Johnny brought a case against her, it's that she
When
made
you
these
say
statements.
Amber's accusations, what do you mean by that?
I mean, the things that she's accused Johnny of doing, both in that have been made public.
It almost helps keep him in control in a way.
Now, those accusations were made public in the divorce back in 2016, correct?
I don't know exactly how or when they were made public.
Given that you believe Amber's accusations would have had the most dramatic impact on Mr. Depp's off-screen reputation, would Amber have been filing the divorce action and obtaining a domestic violence restraining order have had a dramatic impact on Mr. Depp's off-screen reputation?
I think the only way I can answer that is by saying I don't think filing for divorce would have any impact whatsoever. And I'm actually not familiar with the lawsuit to get the restraining order, so I don't know exactly what's in there.
Interesting point.
But if
How many people
that
were
was
aware
based on
of the UK lawsuit?
claims of or accusations of abuse, then that, in my opinion, would have a negative impact on Johnny's off-screen reputation.
If
Mr.
anyone
Carino,
didn't know, they
we were
definitely know
talking
now.
About Amber's accusations and your view that those would have the most dramatic impact on Mr. Depp's off-screen reputation. And you were talking about her accusations of domestic abuse and violence, correct?
Yes.
Were you aware that the Dan Wooten article published in The Sun included specific accusations by Amber Heard of domestic violence and abuse by Mr. Depp?
The Sun case, is that what you're asking about?
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
first the article itself that was in the paper, the why is J.K. Rowling genuinely happy about employing Mr. Depp, the wife beater?
Yes.
Okay. And you're aware that the litigation, the lawsuit, including the particulars of the claim brought by Mr. Depp, included the accusations by Amber Heard of domestic violence and abuse by Mr. Depp, correct?
Yes.
Given
I
that
wonder
the
if she's
Mandel
getting to that
lawsuit
same point.
included
It's Johnny that put a spotlight on this.
accusations by Amber Heard of domestic violence by Mr. Depp against her, are you able to say how much of Mr. Depp's off-screen reputation was impacted by the Mandel lawsuit?
No.
Now, you were aware that the op-ed by Dan Wooten in The Sun included accusations by Amber of domestic violence against Mr. Depp, correct?
Yes.
Are you aware, one way or the other, how much Mr. Depp's off-screen reputation was impacted by the complaint that was filed in this case that
We have someone
contained
making an
Amber
unintended
Heard's accusations
appearance.
of domestic violence and abuse by Mr. Depp?
No.
Are you aware of how much?
Yeah, guys, so
Mr.
she's trying to
Depp's
get to
off-screen
damages.
reputation
What was it that
was
caused his career to
impacted
tank?
as a result of the op-ed in the Washington Post from Amber Heard?
No.
Are you aware of how much Mr. Depp's off-screen reputation was impacted by the accusations included in the Waldman tweet on May 2020 of the op-ed?
No.
Are you aware of any role or opportunity that Mr. Depp lost as a result of the op-ed by Dan Wooten in the Sun?
No.
Are you aware of any
That's
role
important.
or, and when I'm saying opportunity, any kind of business opportunity that Mr. Depp lost as a result of the particulars of claim that Mr. Depp filed?
No.
Are you aware of
Okay.
any role or business opportunities that Mr. Depp lost as a result of the op-ed by Amber Heard in the Washington Post?
Objection.
Are you aware of any roles or business opportunities that Mr. Depp lost as a result of the Waldman tweet from May 2020 relating to Amber's op-ed?
No.
Is there any other role or business opportunity that Mr. Depp has lost since you started representing him in October 2016? And I'm saying,
I would say his, I would say yes.
what?
The Pirates, the next Pirates movie.
Do you remember which one that was?
6, 7, I'm not sure what the number is.
It's 6. I think Pirate 6 is the one that's yet to come out here. And why, what is your understanding of why Mr. Depp lost Pirate
Back to the
6?
hearsay, it's always, what's your understanding? Why did, from your understanding, Johnny not get
My
Pirate 6?
opinion is that it was related to the accusations that Amber has made.
Okay, now we're getting into something.
And what is your opinion based on?
Excuse me?
What is your opinion based on?
Conversations with colleagues and studio execs.
I'm sorry, I
Interesting.
didn't quite hear you.
Conversations with studios and other executives, both internal and external.
When you say related to the accusations that were made by Amber Heard against Mr. Depp, are you talking about accusations of domestic
Yeah, I don't know what he's
violence
drinking
and abuse
there.
by Mr.
Maybe
Depp?
it's kombucha.
Yes.
How many conversations have you had with studio and other executives?
I have no idea.
More than 5, more than 10?
I don't know about more than 10, probably between 5 and 10.
Who do you recall speaking with at studios?
So now she's
or other
asking
executives?
the basis of his opinion of why Johnny didn't get Pirate 6 is because he was hearing in the
Jerry
studio,
Bruckheimer,
and now he's going to talk about those conversations.
probably mostly Jerry and then colleagues at CAA.
When did you first have any conversations with Jerry Bruckheimer about Pirate 6 and Mr. Depp?
I have no idea.
Do you recall whether it was in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019?
I don't.
When did you have any conversations with colleagues at CAA?
It would have been whenever the decisions were being made about how to cast that movie. I don't honestly, I don't know what year that was.
Do you recall who you spoke with at CAA?
I spoke with Jack Wiggum. I spoke with Brian Lord.
What do you recall Jerry Bruckheimer telling you?
I don't recall the specific.
I wonder if any of these
conversations,
people he's naming
but
will be
the
called as witnesses
nature
on
of
Amber's
it
side
was that the
to
studio
ask about these conversations.
was having difficulty employing him.
And did Mr. Bruckheimer tell you why the studio was having difficulty employing Mr. Depp?
No, not specifically, but it was understood.
Did you ask?
I didn't need to.
Why did you think you didn't need to?
Because everyone was aware of what was garnering the attention of the studios and determining whether or not he could be employed.
So he's not
When you say
referencing Johnny
everyone
showing up
was
late,
aware,
Johnny on drugs.
how do you
He's
know
just
that?
saying it was because of these allegations by Amber.
I don't know, I just knew.
Can you tell me who everyone is? Can you tell me who anyone is?
The people who would have been involved in making that decision.
Well, if I'm understanding you correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the only person at Disney that you spoke with about pirates and employing Mr. Depp was Jerry Bruckheimer, correct?
Yes,
Right. And you spoke between 5 and 10 times with Mr. Bruckheimer, and he did not say in any of those conversations the reason we're not employing Mr. Depp is because of Amber Heard's accusations of domestic violence and abuse by Mr. Depp, correct?
that's correct.
Mr. Carino, when we went off for the break, we were talking about your discussions with Jerry Bruckheimer and other executives at CAA respecting Mr. Depp not being employed further at Disney and likely not pirates. And I think a question came up right before the break. And so I just want to make sure that I have clear, did you talk with anyone other than Jerry Bruckheimer at Disney about Mr. Depp not being employed again at Disney or Pirates?
No,
Okay. And was I correct that you, in understanding, you had somewhere between 5 and 10 conversations with Mr. Bruckheimer relating to this topic?
probably less than that. I talk to Jerry regularly. But
Yeah, I think he said he had 5 or 10
probably not that many on
conversations
this topic.
about
Okay. And
Johnny.
was there anyone
losing
else
employment.
at Disney that you spoke with at any point about Johnny Depp being considered for pirates or not being employable by Disney?
No,
Okay. And is that true to the present?
yes,
Okay. And the other discussions that you had, those were all with executives at CAA? Is
yes,
that, and that was
Yeah, the
Brian
attorneys
Lord,
get paid by the
Jack
hour
Wood, correct?
typically.
yes.
Anyone else?
Not that I can recall, no.
Okay. You had indicated that you believe that everyone was aware that the impact of Amber's allegations were at the heart of this. I just want to make sure that we're clear, since we were just talking about this before the break. Jerry Bruckheimer did not say specifically what it was that caused Disney to decide not to continue
Thank you,
with Johnny Depp
Ryan.
in Pirates 6 or in other matters, correct?
Correct.
Well, and I'm trying to reach that it was understood. I'm trying to discover any facts that would have led you to believe it was understood. And if I'm understanding, use the same word, Mr. Bruckheimer didn't tell you that, correct?
Again, it was understood, so I don't recall whether either of us ever
Yeah, she's
said
not going to get more out of
anything
this guy. He's just going to
specific
keep saying,
about
it's just what I
why,
understood at the time.
But it is something within the industry that is understood.
Can you tell me whether any other actors did not receive roles or were unemployable because of the Me Too movement allegations? Other than Mr. Depp, I'm asking.
Not that I work with directly, no.
In any of your discussions with Mr. Bruckheimer, did you ask him what Mr. Depp could do to become employable by Disney again, or to be able to get any part of any Pirates franchise going forward?
No.
Why not?
Because in cases like this, there is nothing anybody can do. It is the directive of the studio and they have the sole right to make the judgment whether they can continue to employ somebody or not.
And your understanding from your discussions with Mr. Bruckheimer is that Disney had made the
Good question. Now they might be calling
judgment
Mr.
to decide
Bruckheimer
that they could
as
no
a
longer
witness.
employ Mr.
So that's
Depp.
what
Is
I'm
that
curious
correct?
to see.
Yes, but not solely based on conversations with Mr. Bruckheimer. It was cumulative with the internal and external conversations.
What did Mr. Lord say that led you to believe that? That Disney had made the decision, the judgment that they were not able to employ Mr. Depp at Disney?
Just that the decision had been made.
What did Mr. Wiggum say about
The
Disney
same.
making the judgment of whether they would not be able to employ Mr. Depp further?
Same thing.
Okay. Just that they made the decision.
Correct.
Were you aware of any problems on the set with Mr. Depp during the filming of Pirates 5? Were you aware of Mr. Depp engaging in alcohol and drug use, being tardy, any of those issues during the filming of Pirates 5?
I'm aware of him being tardy, but he's been tardy on everything in his entire life.
Were you aware of whether that was troublesome to Disney during the filming of Pirates 5?
I think it's troublesome to everybody, but everyone has learned how to produce a film to deal with it.
Working around Mr. Depp?
Yes.
Do you know whether there was anyone on the set of Pirates 5 who wasn't willing to deal with it and was quite irritated by it?
No.
Were you aware that the filming had to be shut down for a period of time after Mr. Depp injured his finger?
Yes.
Were you aware of any disagreements between Mr. Depp and Disney, including Mr. Bailey and others who were on the project, about artistic differences? In other words, where Mr. Depp thought something should be this way or something should be that way, and they didn't agree?
Yes.
Okay. What is your understanding of that?
There was a difference of opinion on how the film was edited.
And what is your understanding of what Mr. Depp thought it should be edited to?
I don't know how to describe the difference between the Disney edit and Johnny's preferred edit. I think Johnny told me about it, talked about it a little bit.
Do you know how well Pirates 5 did at the box office?
Not exactly.
Do you know whether it was more successful or less successful than earlier Pirates franchise movies?
I think it was slightly less than, I wasn't the most successful installment of that franchise.
Do you know whether Mr. Depp has a pay or play clause that would pay him even if he was not in the subsequent Pirates 6?
In 6?
Yes.
I don't think he does.
have you or anyone at CAA on behalf of Mr. Depp made any efforts with Disney to find any roles for Mr. Depp since he filmed Pirate Spy?
My efforts were probably primarily around Houdini, which at one point was a film, but other people at CA for sure did, yes.
Who were they?
I would start with Jack Wiggum.
We'll now play volume 2 of Mr. Carino's deposition, at which,
Okay, maybe time for afternoon.
Sure.
Why don't we just close enough to it? so-
absolutely, Your Honor.
All right, before we get to volume 2, let's go ahead and take a 15-minute break. Please do not talk to anybody about the case and don't do any outside research. Thank you.
All right, so we'll hang out for a second and then let's get to some questions. Waiting for the jury to leave. All right, here we go, guys. We're going to have a little chat. We're going to check in, get an update of where we're at in the case. And then, like I was telling you, I'm in my normal day. I run a law firm, and so I've had some messages coming in from my team. I am going to need to take a break from live streaming, but I want to hang out with you guys just for a few more minutes. Obviously, the court is also going on break. Okay, so we heard some mind-numbingly boring testimony, but for some good stuff nonetheless, from Mr. Carino. And Mr. Carino was talking about the fact that he is an agent for Johnny Depp. And so the heart of Amber Heard's attorney's questions were getting to, what did you know? What did you know as far as Johnny's loss of favor in the entertainment industry, loss of job, loss of employment, and specifically getting into, did you see the Sun magazine article that called Johnny Depp a wife beater, right? Did you see Amber Heard's op-ed where she talked about being an abuse victim and being a survivor? And so trying to correlate the two and say, well, as his agent, basically, isn't it true that the jobs lessened? And in fact, she got into a specific example of Pirates of the Caribbean #6. And what we did hear the agent testify to was that the loss of #6 and that role of Captain Jack Sparrow was following and a result of Amber Heard's statements and the bad press that then brought Johnny Depp. Okay. And, the attorney was kind of pushing back on that, of course, and she needs to try to build some kind of foundation of how would you possibly even know that? Did someone specifically say this to you? Now, what the agent did say was, no, this was just kind of assumed. But I did have conversations, and he named off a few people. Now, with Mr. Brockenheimer, I'm hoping that we hear from this witness or this potential witness as part of Johnny Depp's case in chief. In fact, let me flip this for you guys. Sorry about that. There we go. So we can say hi a little bit better. So I'm hoping that we actually hear from this person because it would help to solidify and reinforce what the agent is saying. If these conversations, in fact, did take place and that this was just kind of the consensus, the reason why Johnny Depp was not, hired for Pirates of the Caribbean #6 was because of this bad press around these allegations of abuse by Amber Heard. Okay. And so this is a key point in this case. Obviously, it was quite a long time before we kind of got to the meat of that testimony, but they did need to kind of, give a little backstory. He is an agent. I work with a lot of agents. Like I said, I'm an entertainment law, or I run an entertainment law firm. And so, not only do our clients hire agents, but we also represent the agents. And so they are usually some of the best people as far as being on the ground floor, getting these bookings, having these conversations on behalf of the artist. But we also heard, in regards to conversations with one of Johnny Depp's attorneys and talking about, well, was there bad publicity? Because I guess Johnny Depp and the attorney got into it and there was a resulting lawsuit. And was it from that lawsuit that Johnny Depp's career took a negative turn. So the attorney was really trying to kind of build the case to show that there have been negative publications, there have been other things that were published that ultimately resulted in the demise of Johnny Depp's career, or the, kind of left turn that things took. But it seemed that this witness was kind of not having it. And I found it a little bit funny that he just kept referring to her by her first name, which is a little unusual. Now, they may have established that up front. When you're doing a deposition, sometimes the witness will say, how should I refer to you? Do you like to be referred to as ma'am or Mrs. this or that? And so sometimes if the attorney had said, no, you can call me by my first name, maybe it's just that simple. But nonetheless, usually we have a little bit more formality in these depositions. So at this point, as far as, doing a subpoena, I don't know that they have anything to subpoena from as far as getting, for example, documents, files, records. But again, I don't know if they already have this ready to go. And they're using this witness to kind of build the foundation on, okay, the next step is that we are going to hear from Mr. Bruckheimer. Maybe he's going to be not only a witness, but there could be evidence coming that the attorney will ask questions on. Because obviously, Johnny Depp's attorney will have an opportunity to ask questions as part of this deposition. And so that's what we heard. So what we're going to be listening to when the court returns which is what they refer to as part two. Part two of the interview of the agent. Who knows? He could be called on behalf of Amber. Seems like a stretch, though. That's kind of what I initially thought. I don't know in whose favor, his testimony would work, but if it corroborates with the agent's testimony that we just heard today, then obviously Johnny Depp would be the one that should be calling him. We've heard from a lot of different witnesses. So, obviously the attorneys have done their due diligence in this case. And I am highly doubtful that they would be offering the agent's testimony without something to back it up after this. That he would just say, oh yeah, I work in the industry. I was talking to the studios. I was talking to all these people. This is what was being said. And then that's it. And that they're not going to actually offer something to, back up that testimony. So we'll see what happens after this. But that's kind of what I suspect is happening, because we have watched them building this case to tell the story of not only from, yesterday we heard from the island manager, we heard from the house manager the day before that, we heard from Johnny himself, we heard from his sister, we heard from his friends. And so it's all about building this story and having all of it kind of relate to each other and to reaffirm different points that we want the jury to remember. This question is for our top attorney. Do you feel they have to tread lightly because of the possibility of a defamation suit that could follow them if anyone goes too far? Nice question, Cody. I have an answer for you. So we mentioned this a little bit earlier in the stream. So the basis of Amber's defamation lawsuit against Johnny Depp, because remember, these cases are happening at the same time. They're going to be dealt with in the same courtroom with the same jury. So Johnny Depp is putting on his case first. We're hearing all of Johnny Depp's witnesses and evidence, and then it will be Amber's turn. Okay. So as it relates to what the attorneys are saying or alleging or kind of, putting in their opening statements and then closing statements, when we get to that, everything is covered by immunity. Okay. So the attorneys have the ability to say not so nice things about the people on the other side in order to advocate for their clients. And they have immunity to do that. So they're not then going and getting sued after the fact for what they said. Now, the basis of Amber's lawsuit is for statements that Johnny Depp's attorneys made about her as part of the UK case. And so you might be thinking, well, that doesn't make any sense to what you just explained. The difference is these statements that were made by Johnny Depp's attorneys that were kind of derogatory or allegedly derogatory towards Amber occurred outside of court. Okay, so they were actually outside a building. They're talking to the press. They say some not so nice stuff. And so now Amber is alleging, because of that, I've been defamed. these were, private things. I was embarrassed. I was humiliated. You intentionally meant to kind of destroy my reputation. And those words were on behalf of Johnny. So, that was something that the attorneys pointed out in the opening statements, just to say, why is Amber not suing the attorneys? Why is she only suing Johnny? And I think that they're going to bring up that question again when they have their direct and cross of Amber. And that's something that I think will be addressed. So, all right, guys, so we have a couple minutes before court returns. As I said, I'm running a law firm, so I did this. I think we've gotten 2 or 3 hours in, which is amazing. I really appreciate you guys being here. I am going to take a break. I'll probably do a recap a little bit later, but I got to go do some lawyer stuff. I got to take care of some clients. So we'll be back with the court, of course. The court will be back here in about 10 minutes. I appreciate you guys being here. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe to this channel. We will be continuing to provide coverage on this trial, and I will touch base with you guys very soon.